welcome to the Weekly Mac. Today we dedicate our show to childhood. We will have a chat with two children's authors, the illustrator Nayat Kaid and the author David Nel. Get your ears ready for a British pub band, the King's Parade. And some children from the English School Barcelona visit us and we send them our own kit, that is Marc Broderick. Today we play and learn on the Weekly Mac, the funniest and most educational show in English, hosted by Marcela Topor.
What do children like? How do we educate them? How do we treat their creativity and how do they react to stories? Today we'll talk about all of this with an illustrator and a writer who both work for children. But as always, let's have a look at our glossary first.
We begin today's glossary not with a word, but with an expression, to stand a chance. If you say that someone stands a chance, you mean that they have a possibility, however remote, of succeeding. The expression is often used in the negative to mean the opposite. Pay attention to another expression, to get the knack of. A knack is a particularly clever or skillful way of doing something successfully. So if you get the knack of something, you learn how to do it well after some practice. Now we'll have a look at an adjective, twee. If you say that something is twee, it is pretty or sentimental in a way that you think is excessive or silly. And last but not least, do you know what an innuendo is? It is an insinuation, an indirect or subtle reference, especially one made maliciously or indicating criticism or disapproval.
David Nel is a Catalan writer, translator and musician specialized in children's and youth literature. He's written more than 40 books, many of which have been awarded. And Nayat Kaid, born in Granada, has studied art in Brussels, London, Tokyo, Hong Kong and in Catalonia. She has illustrated and written books for kids. Nayat and David, welcome in the first place. And let's start with a question that worries a lot of parents this day, with all these screens and phones and computers. How are parents supposed to make children read or read more?
Well, read more, I don't know about reading more. I think it's a bit of a lost battle in the sense that if you want to compete with the screen, you don't stand a chance. So I think that what I say normally when I go to schools is that the kids that don't read are going to be more stupid. So that's the truth. They're going to be thicker, they are going to be less articulate. And so I think that that's already something that they should know and they will discover. Apart from that, I think that in households I don't know, I think the households that read, the parents read, the grandparents, the whatever, I think that the kids tend to read in general. This is my experience, I don't know.
Okay.
I would say I agree with David, but also I don't think it's a lost battle. I like to fight. We have to fight back screens. And I think, for me, there are two ways. For example, one and most important is by modeling. If you want your child to read yourself. If your child sees you all the time with your cell phone, your tablet, your computer, the child is going to think, Mommy, Daddy, don't read. Why should I? Right? It's one more of these things that my parents tell me to do, but they don't do themselves.
I totally agree.
Right, so modeling and then setting up limits with screens. Okay, video games are fun, of course, cell phone, computer, whatever you want. Yeah, sure, but what about an hour per day or only on the weekends? Or what about we play video games together and make it a family activity? There are ways to negotiate and to set up limits and definitely by modeling and expressing your love for literature. It is the most powerful thing you can do with a child when you try to transfer this passion that you feel. So,
what about you as children, as readers in your childhood? What did you read? What did you prefer?
Well, I was not a precocious reader, neither voracious reader, but when I got the knack of reading, I read a lot.
And that was later, as a teenager, maybe?
No. When I was about, I don't know, 8 or 9 or whatever. Then I.
But 8 or 9, it's good.
Yeah,
it's a good age.
I suppose it's okay. But yeah, I mean, also the standards they've changed. I think that nowadays, yeah, perhaps they start a bit later. But yeah, but then I read a lot because in our household we didn't have a TV, so yeah.
Any authors that you liked particularly?
Folky Torres was my absolute hero. And then Enid Blyton, I read lots of, especially the ones for girls. I really like the ones for girls, like yeah, some boarding school, like Torres de Mallori or something. And then other things, I don't know, odd things, Casperle, Michael Ende also, yeah.
What about yourself, Najat?
When I was in primary school, I can only remember comics like The Incredible Hulk and Superman. And then a bit later on, I definitely fell in love with Neverending Story, for example, and Momo, or The Lord of the Rings, this kind of fiction.
Okay.
And then high school, all the way to adult fiction, I would say, because it was mandatory, right? In high school, you had to read Garcia Marquez, for example.
Okay,
this
the
kind of writer.
compulsory
Exactly.
authors. When is it that you actually start writing and illustrating?
The first thing I wrote was a book called Albert i els Menjabrossa, and that won the prize Vaixell de Vapor, and that was good because at the time I didn't know that I wanted to write. I mean, I wanted to tell that story, but I didn't have it clear. I was a musician, I was a flautist, and so I didn't have it clear at all that I wanted to write. So that the fact that it won this prize, then it was like a springboard for writing other things. I remember that the publisher said, "Oh, we really like this story. Do you think that you could write something for teenagers?" And so I did, and then the rest is, you know, history. I mean, yeah.
The rest is a long history because you've written 40 books, which is quite a lot.
Of which some are for children, others for teenagers, and others for grown-ups. You know, so I like to write for like the general audience. You know, from the little ones to the old ones. Really, yeah.
Najat?
Writing. Maybe something in high school, but then drawing came first. Since I was in primary school, I remembered loving the whole thing: animation, cartoons, drawings, illustrations. So I would say drawing from primary school already, and then writing short stories in high school. Yeah.
How would you describe yourself as an illustrator? What style do you like? Are you aware that you have your own style, a specific style?
Definitely, it should go there, but I am not aware. But
in your book, which we have here,
yes,
if we go through it,
I would say
it's very colorful.
Yes,
that's for sure. No, the first thing that comes that strikes you, right? The colors.
So I would say colorful, simple, and expressive.
Although you said that you like realistic
I do.
Drawings.
I love probably all kinds of styles in art and illustration. It is very difficult to me to say, I don't like, I don't know,
well,
realistic.
actually, your career is very varied. You studied many things, from what I've read.
Yes.
You studied acting, you studied art, sociology, sorry.
Yes.
So how do all these disciplines reflect in your drawings?
Definitely theater, acting. There's a very strong and direct connection because what you learn how to build a character when you are supposed to perform a role.
Yes.
I use exactly the same tools to build a character for fiction, for a story. It's exactly the same. The difference is that instead of doing it for yourself and you have to perform, the character is performing for you. That would be theater. Also storytelling, because when you study theater, there's a lot of analyzing plays and everything is about storytelling in a play. So it's really helpful to understand if you want to respect the classical structure, for example, or how to tell a story that can be interesting. And then sociology, definitely, because I ended up talking about topics to make this place a better place. So that's
Interesting.
all sociology is about, to try to understand ourselves and how can we make a better community, better society, starting from individuals.
Okay. Well, David, tell us about yourself as a writer. What do you like to write about?
Well, myself as a writer, well, there is a danger always of something a bit, a bit pretentious, because it's like, oh well, myself as a writer, but not really. I think that mainly I would say that my books deal a lot with emotions, whether they are for kids or for adults. So I
Which
think
is a
that
very delicate
there is exactly.
subject.
That's a good point. I think that it's a very fine balance, because you can, when you tread this line, you can just, you know, fall into writing twee, you know, which is
like you don't want to be like tacky or cheesy.
Well, I don't know. It's a dangerous thing, but obviously, I think for the young, and especially for children, there has to be a story. You have to have a thread, and the thread has to pull the reader, and I think that's essential, because I think that even if the story is absurd, but it's got to have something. It's got to have something that just you hook the reader, and then you pull it through. I think that's very, very important.
Okay, and how do you see children nowadays as compared to your own childhood? What has changed apart from technology?
Yeah, I don't think the essentials have changed, because, you know, it's human beings, but it's true that the way that they spend their time and that's changed. And I think perhaps they are really, really like afraid not to be seen. Like visibility seems to be a big thing nowadays in the social media. I go to schools, and the first question they say, are you famous? And I say, screw this, we don't want to be famous. You don't have to be famous, because it's an ugly thing, you know, or potentially it's an ugly thing.
Or popular, no? Popular
yeah,
on
exactly.
Instagram.
Yeah. So I think that's something which is, for me, it's very dangerous. Apart from that, I think that kids are kids, you know.
And today, in many books, at least lately, we've seen a change in the traditional roles regarding genres. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's a hot one. I mean, it's a hot question in the...
San Jordi in feminine, for example. Have you seen this one?
Yeah, I don't know. I think perhaps we might talk about this later. But I think that I would say that to meddle with the traditional ones, I'm not too happy with. I think that if we want to create new ones, let's create new ones with completely different models, you know, completely different things. Now, to just tailor make the old ones so that I don't know, that the wolf is the good one. I find this, I don't know, I don't think there is the need for this, you know.
Okay, I see.
There is the need for new models, but I think that let's make them, you know. I don't think that...
What do you think, Najat?
I totally agree with David. I totally agree with him. When I see things like, let's make the 3 little pigs female pigs. And I'm like, really? So now what's important is they are female and not male. And it's not important the message of the story, which is, of course, being hardworking, for example. So let's make new models, definitely. But let's make them from now. Leave the classics alone.
So this feminist message...
leave classics alone, right?
I would
they
say
are
so. I
powerful.
would say so. Yeah.
They work.
They are powerful. And also perhaps, because we'll deal with this later, but I think they are very, very subversive. Like the classical stories, the Grimm, the whatever, they're quite shocking for us and for the general climate of a certain either nervousness about what you can say, what you can't say, or even that it might be, I don't know, detrimental or pernicious for the kids, you know. And the kids, they have a big stomach and they can deal with lots of things, I think, you know, Okay,
well, childhood issues, we'll continue this conversation later. And childhood is all about games as well, and also playing. And that's what our first language tip is about too. It's amazing how kids around the world have played the same games for centuries. They only differ in their names. And that's why we've got Helen Armstrong from International House Barcelona to teach them a few of them.
Hi, today we're talking about games we used to play as kids. So my favorite one we used to play in the playground was tag. So that's when you're running around trying to chase the rest of your group, and when you catch them, you're it. So it is also used in other games like hide and seek. So the person who's it counts and everyone else hides, and then you try and find them. Another game we used to play outdoors is Grandmother's Footsteps, or a variation of it is What time is it, Mr. Wolf? So one person stands with their back to the rest, and the rest of the group creep up on them. But when it turns round, they have to stand still as statues. So another game is hopscotch, which is when you draw squares on the floor with numbers, and then you have to hop onto each square. Now, quieter games, when it's rainy day outside, you can play Chinese whispers or the telephone, which is when you pass a message along a group of people, but usually the message gets distorted. So you might start with the word cat, and then it ends up as the word yogurt, perhaps. And another game you can play indoors is noughts and crosses, or tic-tac-toe, which is when you have a grid of 9 squares, and one of you is noughts and one of you draws crosses, and you try and get 3 in a row. So these are all games we all love to play as kids, but adults usually find them quite amusing too.
Tag, you're it. Children's authors have a lot of imagination. Will our mystery question be up to it? Don't miss it.
So far, we have been talking about kids and children's stories. We all know the classic fairy tales, but what if we have taken them for granted all along? Well, let's look into it with our collaborator, Ana Priscila Magriña. Long time no see.
Yeah, you don't even remember my name after so long.
Well, Ana Priscila is a bit difficult for me and for most people, I think.
Don't you
Well,
worry,
what
it's
have
okay.
you got for us today?
I'm really worried because I discovered that all the children's stories that we have been learning so long, they weren't meant to be for kids. If I tell you Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, all these books, all these stories, they were meant for adults. That would show us probably why are they so twisted. We have to go back on the 17th century with Charles Perrault. He's the guy who gathers all these stories that peasants would explain to each other while working, so time goes by faster. And he puts them in a book. And these stories, where they become really, really popular, are in salons where rich people, they go there just to listen to jokes and to listen to the best stories. And some people create these stories to entertain rich people. And what do they teach us? They teach women how to behave. For instance, I don't know, I'm guessing you already know this.
Yeah, but I don't think only women. I think they teach because there was a moral or ethical charge behind them, and so I think that they were exemplary. That's the word. That they were giving example how to behave, or some, you know. Although I think that it was more like a family thing. I don't think it was exclusively for grown-ups. I think it was for the whole family to more, you know, typical thing. You can imagine that, you know, small place, the whole family together, with grandmother, grandfather, aunts, whatever, and then they would just tell the story, and then the kids would more or less listen and perhaps understand, perhaps not understand. And so I think it was like a popular form of entertainment, like based on the oral tradition, which, you know, like Perrault, but I think you can imagine the Irish, you know, Eastern Europe, you know, it's a very strong tradition, I think.
There's also the Grimm brothers. When they gather all these stories at the beginning, what they do is they just like put them in paper the same way they hear it from the streets, from the people. But then they realize, maybe we could tell these stories to kids. And parents, they don't like it very much when a story has a lot of sex, for instance. If you have to explain a little tale to a kid, you probably won't choose something that has sex scenes. And for instance, they gather Rapunzel and they cut off some of the details that imply sex. They would cut them up. And what would they do? They would add violence, because I don't have kids, but I have nephews. They really like violence, I have to say. Kids like violence, don't they?
Yes, they do. They love blood, and because they know, they are so smart, right? And they know right away it's not true and it's a tale, and they love
They play
blood
along.
and gory and violence so much. And it's okay.
Well,
It's not a trauma, and violence is part of life also.
The Grimm brothers in Cinderella, for instance, they had, when there's the scene of the crystal shoe that they are trying it on, and the bad sisters, the shoe doesn't fit because it's too small for them. So the Grimm brothers, what they did is make them cut their own fingers, so their own toes, so it would fit. And kids would really like when they would see blood around the crystal shoe.
Yeah, I think there is this creepy element of the classical stories that and then I think it's based a lot on the telling, because some people were fantastic storytellers, and so they recreated certain things. Non sé què, que escombrava l'escaleta, la rateta que escombrava l'escaleta, and then so there are these things that, you know, or Bluebeard and stuff, and then, oh, we might go to that room, but not yet, and this kind of anticipation, I think that's what gives a lot of this and I think that the funny thing, like you were saying about Rapunzel, I think that there are lots of things that the innuendo is there, nevertheless. You know, that the sort of, and it doesn't have to be very explicit, but I think that there are lots of things that you relate, and even as a child, you understand that there is something dark there, and I think that's very important.
Little Red Riding Hood is a girl, she's alone.
Yeah.
She wears a red, all her, the hood is red, which is a really like powerful color, and she finds a wolf. And the wolf ends up eating her. That is the element, the sexual element we find in there. And this story, it was actually, like the moral of the story was, watch out with the men you go out with, you know, like just get a man to get married to, don't get lost with the wolves. And in France, they say, "Elle a vu le loup," she has seen the wolf when a girl loses her virginity. So imagine,
Really?
Yeah.
Just having a look at the wolf.
Wow, that's fast. That's fast.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's interesting.
Yeah. You were saying that it was a familiar thing around the fireplace, but when it comes to be like a really popular thing for kids to tell kids before going to sleep, it gets really, really popular with the Grimm brothers. Before it was more like for the salons, and nowadays we are so happy that we have so many books. They are so nice. They have amazing illustrations. I'm actually, I don't know, I'm jealous of kids nowadays. We did used to have a lot of books when we were kids, but the books you find nowadays in the bookstores for kids are amazing. And I know you really like the stories, the traditional way they are, but I really like as well that they twist them sometimes, like they change a little bit from the tradition. In the old times, they would change depending on the society of the moment. First of all, Perrault makes us like die in the belly of the wolf. Then the Grimm brothers like, okay, let's put a man in here and he's gonna save her. And nowadays,
But then, if you think about it, maybe it's the intention of Grimm brothers. We want to sell, we want to make money. It's like Disney, because we want to make money, let's change whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the intention behind changing?
I think they wanted to make them more palatable, is the word. It would be easier to digest, you know. And I think that's the intention behind. But it's true that, like, if you have the original stories, there are compilations, and the stories are so short because they are generic. It's like a girl, it's a hunter, it's a woodcutter, and that's the bare story is just, you know, it's like a couple of paragraphs, and that's that. So they had to just flesh it out a bit somehow, you know.
okay, I see. I'm not gonna change your minds. You like the traditional one, and that's okay.
Okay, but anyway, talking about traditional classical stories, fairy tales, for you, as far as you can remember, which one has been like the most haunting one? For me, it was Hansel and Gretel. This one for me was really scary. Yeah. You know, the whole parents thing, you know, the witch, bad people,
Getting
be
lost.
careful,
Yeah.
exactly. Don't get lost in the woods, the darkness.
Would you have
a lot of
breadcrumbs?
elements?
Would you have breadcrumbs in your pockets all the time, just in case?
Or little white stones, yeah.
Yeah. Hansel and Gretel, here there was a beautiful translation. It was called Altoni la Guida. Altoni la Guida, yeah. And it was very, very beautiful. It was quite sort of bit oldish Catalan, and it sounded very good, because I think that the great ones like Carles Riba, all sorts of authors, they adapted them, and so the Catalan they were using was very beautiful. And this one was one of my favorites, although I was always a bit creeped off by the story. It wasn't my best sort of thing. I preferred other things. I don't know. I did find them a bit scary, a bit disturbing. I think that's the
word, yeah.
I remember I always loved There's No Queen by Andersen and Christmas Carol by Dickens. These two were always, I don't know, I was really, but not in a scary way or anything. Even There's No Queen, I found her fascinating. I know she's the evil character in the story, but I thought, I don't know, she could probably be, yes.
The Snow Queen is not Snow White, is it? No.
No,
it's a different one.
Yeah.
And she's evil. Is
Yeah,
she?
the Snow Queen. Yeah, the Snow Queen freezes the heart of the boy.
Right.
And
It's
then-
like Frozen, no?
Right,
Exactly.
a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so she freezes the heart of
the heart of a boy, and
That's not
basically
very
she
nice.
kidnaps.
Right.
She kidnaps the boy.
Yeah.
And it's a prisoner with a frozen heart, and the boy cannot feel anything until a friend comes and saves him. How? Melting the heart with true love or
True
just
love.
love.
How
Wow.
beautiful
Just
is that?
friendship.
I'm about to cry.
It's like
It's
the friend is like a coach. Like you have to be in touch with your feelings and stuff.
Yeah, but it's
So now you
nice.
know, David, where Frozen, the famous Disney film comes from.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Disney recently has done Frozen,
Yeah.
which is a version.
Yeah.
Okay, at least it talks about two sisters and love between
Yeah.
sisters, which is different from prince and princess.
Right.
and all this.
Yeah.
Well, okay, it seems to me that we are learning like kids today. Now we'll take a short break. We'll be right back in 3 minutes with our mystery question. Stay tuned.
Do you want to play like a kid? Then don't miss our quiz, because we will test your knowledge about, guess what?
Welcome back. We are reviewing the classical tales with Ana Priscila and today's guests, the illustrator Nayat Kaid and the children's writer David Nel. And now, before this interview comes to an end, it's time for our mystery question with Ana Priscila.
Yeah, you see we have these mystery questions in here. It's a really easy procedure. You grab one bowl, you open it, you read the question out loud, and you have to be honest about the answer. Think that I know if you're going to be honest or not. So if you want to start, David, maybe?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here you are.
Go ahead.
Take one as well.
Okay, what does it say?
When was the last time you went to bed after 4 a.m. and why? Okay. Well, if I'm absolutely honest, I think it's been ages since I went to bed after 4 a.m. But I could imagine, seeing as we have to be so honest, I could imagine that it might have been on the occasion of some row, some argument with my wife. The typical thing that there is, there is a bit of bad blood, not actual blood, but a bit of an argument. And then I get up, I make a tea, I make some hot drink and stuff like this. And then the thing goes on. And so probably you go to bed, you go to sleep after 4 a.m., all very disturbed. But then next morning it's, darling,
Is there a happy
would
ending
you
there?
like some coffee? So that's the thing. But I think I go for that. Yeah.
Okay. I think it sounded very honest.
Definitely.
What about your question?
It says, what is the most childish thing that you still do?
Oh,
I make a lot of things, okay? But one that recently I do almost every day is I imitate the sound of certain birds or animals. For example, I hear a bird and I need to make the same sound because it's fascinating. Like lately, I hear something like goes, do you want to? I mean,
Yeah.
Can I?
We need to hear it now.
Okay, it goes like, ooh, 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 ooh. I don't know. If you go to the countryside, I don't know what it is, but I love it.
How do you say the name of this bird? I'm not sure.
Well, in Catalan it's called torturas, these ones, I think, torturas.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's not pigeons, it's torturas. And they
It's
go,
like a wild pigeon.
Yeah, exactly. And they wake up very early, and it's like, wow, you know, or
I
other
love
sounds.
these wild pigeons because they're always in couples, no? Have you noticed?
Yes, exactly.
They're very sweet.
Tortolito.
Happy ending as well for them.
Exactly, happy ending.
Nayat, what about other sounds, maybe, of other animals?
I am now watching, I don't know, nature documentaries about our planet, and there's an animal that goes, eh. No, it's more like, sorry, again. It's more like, eh. And they are having a
What's
conversation. It's the mother and the child and everybody there, and everybody, and you can tell. I want to understand.
What are they?
I don't know the name. I think it's a new, but I don't know in English. Looks like a new. Very similar to a new.
You know, there was a competition recently, I don't know in which country, and people trying to imitate seagulls.
Wow.
Have you heard?
They are really loud.
Yeah.
Seagulls are
They're
really,
like 5
really
o'clock
loud.
in the
they
morning.
can be
talking about
very loud.
They wake you up because I think that it's a bit to do with mating also, or territorial. They're very territorial, you know.
At the end of the day,
And they
everything
go,
is about sex.
like this. No, it's true. This is what they do.
It's not very nice. Not the
No,
sound
it's not
of
very
a-
Guys,
nice.
I
No,
think you should
but-
change professions. You're really good at this
Yeah,
imitation.
well, we're gonna
game.
start a show now.
We're going to, exactly. We can
Okay,
go
let's
forever.
hear a seagull. Najat?
Seagull, I don't know the sound.
He just did it. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
but
He did it.
it's a kind of, it's not the typical one because when they fly, it's more like woo, 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 woo. But when they go like this with the wings, so
And
they go
they
like
are
this, they're
big,
very
they are big.
aggressive.
Yeah.
They make this other sound.
sometimes
Yeah.
they're a bit scary. But before we conclude this interview, which has been very interesting, by the way, let us ask you about your projects.
Well, my third book is coming in fall, and it's about a giraffe and the relationship she has with beauty. It's about beauty. It's about external or internal beauty, and it's for readers from 3 to 6 years old.
What's her name? The name of the giraffe?
The giraffe.
Okay. Wow.
The name of the giraffe
And
is
the title,
giraffe.
the title of the book?
Do I look pretty? So she wonders all the
Right,
time. It's something that worries her, but she will find out it's not about what you wear or you think you are beautiful because you are wearing earrings or a nice dress. She will learn she's beautiful because of who she is.
Don't
No, it's not a spoiler. No, don't worry. It's
No
not a spoiler.
spoilers.
No,
It's not a spoiler,
No,
I
it's not a
think.
spoiler.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
message.
It's a message I wanted
Yes.
to give.
Really nice.
Yeah.
And David?
It's always the same. When I'm working on something, I go to schools and they say, "Oh, are you writing something?" I say it's top secret. I say it in English because they really like it. It's top secret, and I think it is top secret because I think I'm convinced that it's better not to talk about.
You don't want to jinx it.
Well, I don't know. It's just something that it's
You're superstitious.
Yeah, a bit.
little
Actually, yeah.
Well, so you are working on something,
Yeah.
but we'll find out about it
You will
later,
eventually.
And then you can come and tell us all
Yeah,
about it.
totally. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
anyway, thank you for coming today, David and
Thanks
Najat.
for
Good luck
inviting
with
us.
all your projects. And Priscilla, thank you so much for coming. Until next time.
Thank you.
And there's no need to have kids to use idioms related to children. They might be useful in many situations, and that's what our teacher, Tim Wari from International House Barcelona thinks, and we couldn't agree with him more. So pay attention to the following tip.
Hi again. So, today we're looking at some expressions related to babies and children. Do you know what it means to have a bun in the oven? This expression means that someone's pregnant. It's got nothing to do with baking or making bread. It just means that they're expecting a child. Now, if that child is born into a very rich or wealthy family, we could say that they're born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They're going to have a very privileged life with lots of advantages. Now, when babies are born, we can say that they're wet behind the ears. We can use this expression to describe older people as well, and it just means that they're inexperienced. So maybe if they've just started their first job, we can say, he's a little bit wet behind the ears. He doesn't have much experience. Now, one thing you won't hear people doing is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This expression means maybe, for example, for a project, you're scrapping, getting rid of a whole project just because it has one bad thing in it. So if, for example, you have a project where it has lots of advantages and lots of good points, you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now, if we have a kid or a baby who's very similar to their parents, we can say that they're a chip off the old block. So imagine the parents, this big block of wood, and the baby or the kid is just a little chip, little piece that's come off, and they're exactly the same. They're very, very similar. Now, speaking of family, we have another expression which is Bob's your uncle. We normally use this when we're explaining how to do something, explaining a process. So imagine you're making an omelette. So all you have to do to make an omelette is break a couple of eggs, whisk them around a bit, fry them in a frying pan, and Bob's your uncle, you've got an omelette. Oh, we've nearly run out of time. Thing is, when I'm teaching expressions, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I get really, really into it, really excited, and time just goes really, really quickly. So that's all we've got time for today. Thanks a lot.
How do you go from flatmates to husband and wife? Stay tuned for Mariona and Ruben's story on today's Love in Translation.
If there is one thing children like, that's playing. And although we have grown up, we still keep the passion for games. Let's welcome today our playful contestants, Patricia Scalona and Mario Serra. Welcome.
Hello.
And of course, our quiz master who doesn't have to go back to childhood because he actually never left, Sergi. Welcome.
You can call me Mr. Wonka, Marcela.
That's a good one.
Thank you. Yes, I will be young and playful until the end of the world or the end of this show, whichever comes first. I hopefully think that it's going to be the second one. No word tricks today. It will be a quiz about childhood. Are you prepared to go back in time? Here we go. To begin with, watch this video about the first memories of an artist.
I'm an artist, so when I was a child as well, I was loving drawing.
So, first multiple choice question. What means did she use to express her talent? A. She soaked her cat in paint and let him free in their flat. B. She painted a nice picture of her parents' bedroom wall. And C. She drew all over her parents' friend's car with a stone.
With a stone.
A stone, yeah.
Stone? Good child.
I would say B.
B for you. So she painted a nice picture on her parents' bedroom wall.
A conservative question.
A conservative question. Good, good.
I'm gonna go with the stone.
With the stone. Option. Okay, let's see which materials these artists worked with.
And so I thought that I wanted to give a present to a family of our friends, and I draw with a stone all their cars. So for me it was something beautiful because I made the sun, trees, flowers, but my parents were not so happy when they discovered.
Parents of the friends, I presume.
Right, yeah, parents of the friends. Well, good instincts, Patricia. That's
means... what I would have done.
Exactly. You were more conservative.
Yeah. You can't be conservative.
No, you cannot. At least as a child. So point to Patricia. So now for the second grown-up kid, the discovery of nature.
I was like 1 year old, and we have a garden, a beautiful garden, and we have a lot of ants everywhere.
So, how did this girl interact with ants as a kid? A. She ate lots of them, naturally. B. She fed her dog with them, naturally as well. And C. She took them and put them inside her nappy, naturally as well. What's your pick?
B.
B. She fed her dog with them.
Yeah.
Okay, she's generous.
I'm gonna go with the nappy then.
The nappy then.
For whatever reason, it makes sense.
No stone.
No stone this time, no.
All right, let's see what she did with them.
Like I said, I didn't like eating, but I loved eating ants. I just eat thousands of them. And my mother get so she was crazy about this, and yeah, I've eaten that a lot.
There you go. I mean,
You should go live in Mexico then.
So that actually made me feel a little hungry.
Well, they say, you know, it's the protein of the future.
There you go.
Insects.
There you go. And now for the third and last video of the multiple choice challenge.
Yeah, I've done like naughty stuff, a lot of them, but I think I'm kind here in the heart. So it's I have never been like evil or something like that, but I have my tricks.
We have already been told that he wasn't evil, but got into some mischief. Nothing serious. So, A, he played with a ball and broke a window. B, he played with a knife and cut his hand. Or C, he played with fireworks and caused a forest fire. Marius, what's your pick? C. There we go. Let's go for the forest fire.
Yeah.
All right. A. And he played with a ball and broke a window. Okay. All right. So let's see what the right answer is.
When I was 12 years old, me and my friend, we were like playing with fireworks in the woods, and then we played with them, and then we went for a bath like 1 kilometer away. Then we got back and there was a big fire. We didn't tell that it was we who had done it. So I don't know if anybody knows, even till this day.
We know now.
All
of us. Yeah. We all know. So point to Marius.
When someone tells you, I was no evil,
then means go
means
for the hellish option.
really,
Okay, what about yourselves? Have you been naughty as kids? Have you caused any
Or fire.
any situations like that?
No, well, sometimes I got some fire, but just with some paper in a basket.
Just a few trees. Just a few trees, not a whole forest.
That's all.
Not the whole house.
Exactly.
I was the devil's spawn, really. I was.
You were?
I was.
Are you talking in past?
Well, you know, something lingers on, you know? No, I used to run away. I used to lock myself up in my father's office. I never obeyed my mom. I talked back. I was like really difficult, actually. So much so that my mother taught me how to read so I could stay quiet for a while, and that's how she kept me control. And she gave me my life, basically.
Okay, let's go over the score, which is 1 point for Patricia, 1 point for Marius. So you're even still. And now let's continue with
the speed challenge. So dust your bells and start stretching, because we are after just checking. We are after famous child characters, novels, movies, tales, and I will read out the clue and you ring your bells, ding 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 ding, and answer. Okay?
Well, we'll try.
So here we go. Dickens' most famous orphan. Marius?
Oliver Twist.
Of course. Lord Voldemort's nightmare. Marius?
Wait a minute.
No.
Wait a minute.
5,
Tick tock,
3,
Draco.
No, that's incorrect.
Harry Potter.
There you go. Sorry?
No, it's okay.
There you go. Point to Patricia. All right. Ready and next. Hansel and Patricia.
Gretel.
Correct. Next, she lives in the Alps. Marius? Heidi.
Yes.
Correct. Next, a little girl who loves books by Roald Dahl. Marius?
Matilda.
Matilda. Correct. Next, he's friends with Huckleberry Finn. Patricia. 5, 4,
Tom.
3, 2, 1.
I can't believe it.
Tom Sawyer.
There you go, great! Point to Marius. Next, this boy grew up in the jungle. Patricia.
No, it was Marius, no?
Was Marius? Ah, I heard, sorry. Mowgli, of course. Point to Marius.
My mind is off.
Next, a Swedish freckled girl with red. Marius.
Pippi Langström.
There you
Swedish,
go.
Swedish.
Ready, and next, she was picked up by a tornado. Marius?
Oh, God.
Doraemon?
No, that's
Dorothy.
correct. Dorothy! Point to Patricia. Very good. Hold on.
The beginning was good.
It was good. He was going there. Next, the most resourceful Viking. Marius. Vicky, correct. And next.
And the last one.
Last one. And
Exactly.
ready, and next, and Home Alone. Home Alone.
The boy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Oh, my God.
Come on.
Not the actor, the character.
The character.
I can't remember.
But
Billy?
the
Billy?
Not correct.
Bob?
Not correct. Kevin McAllister. Home Alone.
Okay.
Macaulay Culkin.
I have to say a few
Excellent.
things about the bias here with the ringing, eh?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I am.
Indeed.
Well, that was fun. That was
For you,
fun.
especially for Patricia.
You can sing Ring My Bell.
Ring my bell.
And the score is Marius 8 points, Patricia 4 points, but the challenge
happened before.
continues.
You have a whole game ahead to change the score.
Right.
And we trust you. There you go.
I don't trust you, that's the problem.
Okay, let's
That
check
can
it out.
change.
And let's have a second round of this challenge with a mix of some rhymes and sentences about kids. And Marcela begins and I go on with the sentence, but for the last word, which you have to finish.
Okay.
Ready? Oh, right.
They are all about Sergi, okay? So that might help.
My ego is going to be happy
first
and Patricia as well.
The first one, as a kid, Sergi never went to see the Three Wise Men parade for Christmas.
That's right, because they were always telling me never to take sweets from Patricia.
Strangers?
That's correct. Point to you. You see, there is no bias here.
The second one, Sergi doesn't like to go to bed alone.
Correct, correct. And I need someone to tell me, sleep tight and don't let the bed bugs. Patricia?
Bite you.
Bye.
Bite. Correct, correct. Are you happy now?
It was the only bell ringing. I'm talking about the bias when both sound at the same time.
Anyway, number 3, Sergi loves sweets. That's why for Halloween...
I knock on my neighbor's door and I say, trick or...
But you ran before he said that.
And you broke
That's
it.
actually correct, Patricia.
Treat.
Treat, correct.
Number 4, Sergi likes children's rhymes. If he doesn't believe what you're telling him, he says...
Liar, liar, pants on. Marius.
Hands.
No, that's
Fire.
not correct. Fire,
Hands on your
correct.
pants.
Liar, liar, pants on. Fire.
Okay, and the last one, Sergi loves animals, so every time he gets on a bus, he sings...
Oh, MacDonald had a farm.
E-I-E-I-O.
Point to Patricia.
My God.
Impressive. Goosebumps.
Impressive. Okay, so Patricia, you managed to catch up.
Did I?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that you were still kids deep inside, so let's check the score.
So-
Oh.
So we've got 8 points for Marius and 9 points for Patricia.
Correct. Well, we have almost come to the end of today's Guess What. But before you take on the challenge of clues, we have to decide how many points this final challenge will be worth. And as it's unfair that, I decide, she complains, all those things, and I really don't want to put Marcela through the harrowing experience of making the decision.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. So I decided to invite a friend of mine. She's a bit of a fan, actually.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's meet her.
Let's see what Sergi came up with this time. Oh.
Oh, God.
Well. Hello, Mrs. Socks. How you doing, sweetheart? Oh, you look like $1,000,000 in that vest. I know, thank you. Thank you, Miss Socks. Actually, I wanted to ask you for help. Can you help me to come up with a figure? Oh, what that for, honey? Actually, you already have a stunning figure. Thank you.
You have absolutely no shame. Did you know that?
I do not. Thank you, Miss Socks. But actually, I mean, you know that I mean a figure, I mean a number for our quiz, right? Yeah, absolutely, sugar. All right, let me think. How about that? 6. 6. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss Socks. I don't want no thanks, sugar. How about, and you up for a kiss?
Mario,
Okay.
we need to go.
Yeah.
So
That was
she's a bit of a fan. That's what fans do, you know. It's not my fault.
okay. We are very
She said
impressed.
she said
Yeah,
yes.
we are all impressed, and I thought you went back to normal Sergio, but I see this is not the case.
That's never
And
gonna
actually,
happen.
it's more of a basket case.
You can say that again.
I
Indeed.
won't deny it.
Or a nutcase.
Then time for the challenge of clues, and the winner gets, as Miss Xarxa said, 6 points. And as always, Marcela is going to read the clues one by one, and we are after a well-known fictional character. So bing bing, ring your bell or mine as soon as you know the answer.
Ready? So let's go for it. This character was created in the 20th century. This character first appeared in a few chapters of a novel called The Little White Bird. It was created by a Scottish novelist and playwright. This character is a boy. This boy meets a girl, and her name is Wendy.
Patricia.
Peter Pan.
Again, Peter Pan. Absolutely. Yes, Peter Pan indeed created by Sir James Matthew Barrie, who before his death gave the rights of the Peter Pan works to a children's hospital in London, which continues to benefit from them nowadays.
Okay, so seems like, looks like we have a winner. Patricia, congratulations. 15 points. And Marius, 8 points.
Congratulations. Well, that was exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, very exciting, Sergio.
Very.
You feel
I'm
very
excited.
Very Peter Pan, in fact.
I'm Peter Pan.
You are
I'm
Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Well, so much for Guess What, and now it's time for Guess Word with Marius Serra. So, Marius, can you remind us the last clue? I mean, the clue for last week?
Yeah, it was about cinema, and it was a movement constantly invoked by cinema directors. And it was something like
Action!
action. That's
Very
it.
good, well done.
Because an action is a movement as well, apart from this word, which is special when they say light, camera, and then
action.
Well, that was not too difficult. What about next week, Marius?
Well, it might be quite a little bit more difficult. Here's the clue.
I'm excited.
Narrow back streets to Wonderland. 6 letters. Narrow back streets to Wonderland. 6 letters.
Okay, a 6-letter word that is narrow back streets to Wonderland. You have to do just 2 things. 1, solve the puzzle, and 2nd, post the solution on our social media profile. Well, Marius, Patricia, and Sergio, thank you until next week. And it's time now for a 3-minute break. We'll be right back with the King's Parade and our section Love in Translation. Stick with us. Welcome back. Well, sometimes your partner can also be your best friend. And this might be the case of Mariona from Barcelona and Ruben from Mexico City. They started as flatmates and now they are husband and wife. But actually, how well do they know each other? We'll find out in our next section, Love in Translation. Don't miss it.
Hi, my name is Ruben. I've been living in Barcelona for 15 years now. And I've been living with her for 7 years.
As a couple, 7, and then as roommates, a little bit
9
more,
or so.
yeah. Hi, my name is Mariona, and I was born in Barcelona, so I've been living in the city for 32 years now.
We attended the same university, Humanities at Pompeu Fabra.
Yeah, and we were friends at first, and then we studied the same masters, and then we became roommates.
And then we started going out.
And then we fell in love.
Yeah. She was.
No, you were. I think we both kind of were.
Yeah, mutual.
Right?
We're just hanging out in the bar somewhere, and then heading back home. There was a kiss, and that was it.
Because we were roommates, so of course we were going back to the same place. So when we were saying goodnight,
very straightforward.
We kissed and
yeah. Okay, so the thing that I find the strangest is that people really like the weather forecast. It takes forever, it lasts for about half an hour, and weather forecasters are household names in this country for some reason.
Ruben is from Mexico, so this is going to sound very cliche, but I guess spicy food could be a good answer because I didn't used to like it very much, but now we are usually eating that. I know it's not a very sophisticated answer, but yeah. I am very lucky because I hate football or soccer, whatever. And Ruben doesn't enjoy soccer either, except every 4 years when there's the World Cup, right? He goes bananas, he goes crazy, but it's just every 4 years, so I can...
And only for 4 games, because they always get eliminated quickly.
Yeah, fortunately.
Well, I've already adopted the calçotada, which I love, but I've never felt very strongly about San Esteban. I don't get excited about it. It's okay to have an extra...
He doesn't understand. He complains about it. I'm like, it's an extra holiday that you get.
It's fine, but I don't get excited about it.
It's very easy. This is very easy. Yeah, well, everybody does that. Everybody does that, no? I think, yeah. No, that's not your no. Organization.
I agree.
You agree? Yeah.
Yeah.
He forgets a lot of things. I mean, in terms of everyday life, like I have a doctor's appointment, or he's not very well organized. But that's because he's so smart, so he focuses on other things.
Yeah, I think I'm lazy, but yeah, no, totally.
What are you writing? I don't remember that. Was there a moment? We both said it at the same time.
We both said it at the same time, totally. We remembered this moment very clearly, the both of us.
No, it didn't. It wasn't a movie. Like the moment where
I asked her to marry me. That much I can tell you. Yeah.
That's true.
Today we'll meet Amy Ram, a professional skateboarder that lives in Barcelona. Don't miss our portrait section.
Today we are very happy to welcome a British band born at the University of York, with a style described as a combination, a mix of pop and soul with influences of Detroit blues. They are Ollie Corp, Sam Rooney, Tom English and Chris Band, and they are called the King's Parade. And I'm talking to Ollie. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome.
Thank you.
This is your second time here. Tell me about your latest EP called Mad. You're on a tour.
Yeah, we just started the tour in Madrid last week, and now we're playing Barcelona for the second time, so we're really excited to go to all the other European countries we've got planned. It's going to be a big one.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the style of the band, pop, soul and blues. Do you agree with that? Would you add something else to it?
Yeah, I agree with it. I think it's always hard to name your own style. I think we see it as kind of alternative, soul. There's definitely elements of everything in there, so I'd leave it to the person listening to decide how they feel about it.
It sounds great though. Well, you were born as a band in York, you met in York, so tell me a little bit about the history of the band and how you got to London.
Well, we all met at university, as you said, in York, and we kind of started jamming together, and we thought that there was something really good going on. we decided to move to London, and we actually went on a cruise ship to earn enough money to move down. So we went around Hawaii, California. It was amazing. Yeah, it was a great experience. And we moved down. We didn't have much money, but we managed to make it work. And that's when the King's Parade started.
And this is your fourth EP. It's called Mad again. Tell me something about these 4 songs.
Well, they were kind of they were written at different times, but interestingly, they kind of all blend together really nicely. When we were deciding on what tracks to use, these all came together really nicely. So they've all got an inline message that's the same, really.
Okay, today you are going to play
We're going to play Mistakes.
Mistakes. Tell me about the song. What is it about?
Well, as the name says, it's about making mistakes. It's about looking back, hindsight, and kind of looking back on things and how that can really torment you from the inside, really.
Anything else you would like to add or share with us, with the audience in Barcelona?
Well, we're just, super excited to play, and we hope to be back in Barcelona very soon.
Well, thank you for coming and good luck with the tour.
Cheers, thank you so much.
And while the King's Parade are getting ready to perform on stage, let's watch our next section called Portraits, and today it's all about skating. Well, as you know, many young people enjoy and practice skating, but not too many of them actually manage to make a living out of it. And this is exactly the case of Amy Ram from London, currently living in Barcelona, and she will tell us her story. She travels around the world, she takes part in many contests and inspires other young female skateboarders. Enjoy.
My name is Amy Ram, I'm from London and I'm a skateboarder, and my job is to skateboard, and I just travel the world, I compete, I film, I take photos, and it's a good life. I started to skate, when I was really super young. Skateboarding is considered a lifestyle as well as a sport, so you normally get into it just for fun and to exercise and to be healthy and to get outside and to not stare at a computer screen all day. So I didn't start skateboarding because I wanted to make money. I started to skateboard because I love the sport, it's a challenge. I would say to anyone who wants to start skateboarding to do it for fun, and the progression's very slow, so it's not like you start one day and then you're professional the next day. I've only started to make money from it in the last couple of years, so and I'm 30 and I've been skating for over 10 years, so it doesn't really happen overnight. So I'd just say to anyone to start skateboarding, hang out with your friends, have fun and see where it takes you, but don't force yourself. You've got to hurt yourself to get good, basically. It is one of the most painful things, falling on concrete, of course. There's not many sports that require you to hit concrete and, name another sport. There isn't any. No pain, no gain. That's my attitude. I moved to Barcelona to help improve my skateboarding because I know that I can skate every day here, and it's got the best skate spots in the world. All these amazing places where you can skate, and they're all free. Since I moved here, my skateboarding's dramatically got better because I've been able to skate every day, and it's the skate capital of the world, and there's no denying it. You walk around the whole city and there's skateboarders everywhere, of all different ages, of all different genders. More and more people are relating skateboarding positively now instead of it being like a rebellious sport. And especially in Barcelona, there are a lot of DIY skate parks where communities build skate parks and they bring everyone together, and it's like a project, and people from all around the world come to skate these DIY skate parks because they're very unique to Barcelona, really. You can take so much from skateboarding, especially when you travel and you meet all these people around the world who you'd never normally meet. I have friends from all over the world, some of my best friends. You get to meet just so many interesting characters that you'd never normally meet, and you get to go places where you'd never normally go to. It's definitely one of the strongest male-dominated industries out there, but the female scene's definitely growing. One of my goals is to like help inspire girls to get more into skateboarding. It definitely does require a certain personality trait to get into it, but I think most girls have got it in them, you know, and I see more and more girls skateboard all over the world. I'm not really interested in the Olympics, to be honest. I'm not that competitive with it all, you know. Olympics is all about win, 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 and for me, like, I just want to keep having fun with skateboarding and keep meeting new people and keep traveling the world and inspiring other girls to get on skateboards and yeah.
I'm a good man, I learn from my mistakes. I guess I must have learned them, 'cause I do them all again. But lately I've been wondering if I could ever hang on to anything that won't fade away. Don't you hold back, 'cause I know that you feel it. It's a cold, but you gotta believe me. Don't you hold back, you'll be the first one leaving without nothing, holding on to someone else like there ain't no other way. Ooh, yeah. Oh, it's easy, at least that's what you told me. It'll pass in a year or so, just let the fire burn out slow. But just maybe in a moment, right before you wake up in your mind, you'll turn around and see the flames. Don't you hold back, 'cause I know that you feel it. It's a cold, but you gotta believe me. Don't you hold back, you'll be the first one leaving without nothing, holding on to someone else like there ain't no other way. Ooh, yeah. Oh, the end of all your days, flashing by your face, leaving with no trace. There ain't no other way. 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 You leave it all to fate, call it a mistake. Oh no, babe, hold on to what you need, yeah. Stay right here and you won't turn around for the rest of all your days.
Welcome back. Well, anyone with children knows that there are a few recurrent phrases that kids like to use to get what they want, but don't panic, because Tim Guinea from International House Barcelona has this fantastic guide to help you deal with them. Have a look.
If you ever find yourself looking after children or babysitting them in English, there are some phrases that you're definitely going to hear. The first being, "It wasn't me," because no child wants to take the blame for their actions. And imagine two children are fighting, then you'll probably also hear, "He started it." And you might have to punish them both for being a bit naughty, and they'll probably say back to you, it's just not fair. Well, to a child, most things don't seem fair when they don't get their way. And another way that they make you feel guilty is that they say, you never let me do anything. And this would be true, even if you let them go to Portaventura every week or eat chocolate cake every day for breakfast. And let's say that they want something, maybe a new PS4. Then they say, but everybody else has got one. This is a conspiracy and you shouldn't listen. But maybe one thing you should listen to is if the child says, I need a wee, which means they need to go to the bathroom or they need to go to the toilet. Now, this can happen in any part of the day. And if you know small children, it can be in the morning, can be at school, it can be even traveling. And if you are traveling with children, then you're probably definitely going to hear, are we there yet? And my dear viewers, we are there. We're at the end of the video. So until next time, bye.
We have reached our Here and There section at the end of the show. And today, we're very happy to have a different show. We have some very special guests, a group of students from the English School Barcelona. Welcome, everyone. Hello.
A little bit louder. Hello. Much better, much better.
Excellent. Well, we'll talk to them in a while, but first we'll go down memory lane with our two young, spirited collaborators, Matthew Tree and Marc Broderick. Hello.
How's it going?
Excellent.
I'm a little bit nervous.
Really?
Yes.
But you're a teacher
for now, I have
as well.
to control what I say. I have to control what we talk about, no? Because we have little eyes staring at
Everywhere.
us.
That's
Everywhere.
right.
Yes.
That's true.
That could be
Well,
difficult.
Anyway, today the topic is childhood. So let's talk about your childhoods. How would you describe them in the first place?
You're looking at me? No.
Yes, I'm looking at you, and then I look at him because I'm interested in finding out how you spent your childhood in England.
In a word, happy. It was a happy childhood because kids do have this facility, you know, of being happy. It's a normal state for a child unless the situation is very serious. And I remember that my parents used to have terrible shouting matches. It happens in most families. And I would watch them shouting and yelling their heads off and everything. And I was just thinking about, would my Japanese soldiers beat the English soldiers? You know, so it's like, you know, it was happy. It was a happy childhood.
They definitely would, Matthew. The Japanese would definitely beat the English in any sort of a war with kids' games.
What about you, Marc?
I actually have to agree. I had a really happy childhood, very innocent. No connection with like all the technology that they have nowadays. I think I had quite a pleasant experience growing up, you might say. Oh, it's happy. Yeah.
Anyway, being a kid, do you remember it being different in England and Ireland compared to Catalonia? I don't know. In terms of the importance of the family, for example, the Sunday lunch, family gatherings and all that.
Yes, one of the things that surprised me when I came here is that it's so normal for, like, if you're a couple, say, for example, the one partner always goes to the family, brings the other partner to the family lunch on Sundays. That's very typical in Catalonia. And the next weekend, it's the other half of the family. In England, like, that happens once a year for Christmas. You know, that half of the family goes to see one member of the family goes to see half the family for Christmas, and then they wait a year, and then they go and see the other half of the family. So in fact, there's very little contact. And
It's the other extreme, no?
Exactly, and as an only child, in fact, when I think of family, I think of mum and dad, because they were the ones I actually saw most of the time. Yeah.
Oh, you were an only child. I didn't know that. Learn something new about you every week, Matthew. I came from a typical Catholic family. There was a whole bunch of us. In fact, my grandfather, I think I said before, had 17 brothers and children. Brothers and sisters, excuse me. We had massive family gatherings. Like, the Irish are famous for having these huge family gatherings. Like, our childhood, I guess, was a little bit different. Like, we were all very, very close with our aunts and uncles. Especially growing up, we had lots of cousins around around all the time. We all lived with very, very close to each other within like 15 or 20-minute drive, etc. But as we got older, I mean, as time went on, we all kind of went our separate ways. And in fact, now we're all in different areas of the world, so to speak. So, but I do remember the childhood growing up a lot, surrounded by family and stuff like that. It was
And
nice.
what about parents?
Yeah.
There has been a lot of talk recently about the so-called helicopter parents.
Which is an expression I learnt because the scriptwriter put it in the notes.
Okay.
I'd never heard it before, literally. Sorry,
Like
please go on.
overprotective parents?
Yeah. I personally, at primary school, I never found that very much. What I did find were dysfunctional parents. You know, there were parents who, I remember in particular, one family where it was very sad actually. The man was addicted to gambling, what they call a ludopather in Catalan.
That's sad.
And so his wife was incredibly nervous. She was the first adult who used to shout at me, who wasn't my parents. I found that very strange because all the money they had to try and keep from him, otherwise he would just blow it all on gambling. So from an early age, I started to realize that not all families were the same, and not all families were equally happy, something like that, that some families had serious problems. Yeah.
But yourself, as a parent, you've just...
Sorry, I'm being distracted by the funny faces here behind.
Well, we'll talk to them a bit later. You've just become a father,
Yes.
and you might have 2 children yourselves. How would you describe yourself as a father?
Oh, geez, you're asking me. You should ask them.
You're the best father in the world.
No, but what I don't do is, I do remember very clearly from my own father that I was probably the last generation to have that, but he came from a completely different world, let's say, and he couldn't understand that I was living in a world that was so different from his in terms of almost everything, music, staying out late, the whole business. So with my own kids, what I try to do is understand all the time that their lives belong to them and not to me. So I've never, even when they were little babies, you know, sort of waving their hands in the air, I always had this idea, that life belongs to you, not to me. So I've never treated them less seriously than I would an adult. I mean, obviously, when they're 10 years old, I treat them like 10-year-olds, but not looking down at them, or I never talk down to them.
Okay.
Well, I try never to talk down to them, yeah.
That's good. That's a good attitude. And yourself, Mark?
Well,
you're new in this business.
I'm extremely well versed in this business, 2 months to be exact. I guess I have to share what he says about like being like trying to give it, thinking that it's his own life, that it's not me to control. And going back to the helicopter parent thing very quickly, just to connect the two ideas. I remember my mother growing up, she used to be really crazy when she was a child. When she was a young girl, she was wild. She used to go like jumping into rivers and like rolling in the mud, and she was very like, you know, but as she grew older and she became a mother, she became a little bit more like a helicopter parent. Like all the things that she did, she realized that they were dangerous, and then she stopped me from doing them. So I hope not to repeat the same pattern. I hope that my little lad, Sasha, has the freedom to fall, to eat worms, to, you know, to not to be overly protective about what he eats, or is he clean all the time, or within a certain a certain degree.
Limit,
you
no?
know? A limit,
I mean,
exactly.
the thing about eating worms, I'm not so sure about
Yeah,
that.
but it's good for your. It's good for your. You let them eat worms and mud and all that. It builds up defenses. That's what I was told, anyways. I don't know.
Right. Well, I'm not so sure about that, about the worms thing. Anyway,
Well,
but
I'm going to ask these guys later how many worms
yeah,
they've
exactly.
eaten.
So, talking about education,
Yes.
you visited the English School Barcelona. So, tell me, how did the experience go?
I found out that these kids are probably more sensible than me, and generally probably more sensible than most adults. They have really good advice. Have
Excellent. Let's have a look.
Okay.
This is all the heads of all the children that have misbehaved in this school. Well, today we're back to school, and after, I don't know, 35 shows talking to adults, I thought it was about time we talked to some children. I'm sure they have some really interesting views on us and life in general. What's the best thing about being a child?
You don't have to work. It's fun. We can go to school, eating candy, having free time, not going to school. That's like the least important thing about being a kid. It's like a torture to kids.
What things do you think is good about being an adult?
That they can go like to parties when it's like 11. No one like tells you what you have to do. You tell yourself what you have to do, and you can eat everything because like wine and all that, and you can eat very much spicy.
Do you have any advice for adults? What advice would you give adults now?
Stop not making me throw eggs off the balcony.
Oh my god.
Let them play whatever they want.
Don't work that much and have more attention for their kids.
Stop shouting at me and stop punishing me for no reason.
For no reason. And what about you?
Please do not get the iPad for 2 weeks, only 5 minutes.
My dad often says that he's going to try to see from my point of view, but I don't know, maybe that's not really what you think of. Like if I have a fight with my mom, he just supports my mom.
Stop punishing the children and saying what they need to do. They have like to have a little bit more of fun because they're all the time like the job. You have to like.
That's some of the best advice I think we've got so far. Adults need to have more fun and need to shout less.
Yeah.
Well, have more fun.
Yes.
Have more fun. That sounds like a reasonable tip.
Absolutely.
I like that.
I think it was the best advice. Adults
Yeah,
need to have more
really.
fun. I think we take life way too seriously. And as you see, they're quite intelligent, these kids, quite mature.
And very sensible
Yes.
kids. Listen, games, right?
Yes.
Because you mentioned games. What kind of games? Do you remember what games you used to play as kids?
Oh, yes, Jesus. No, I grew up in London, so with friends who lived in the area, we used to play not in the street exactly, but in open areas. Like, for example, there was an office block, which at the weekends was empty, obviously, and so we could play football in there until the caretaker, who he probably had nothing better to do, but I remember him still sticking his head out of the window and telling us all to go away, and we weren't hurting anybody. So that was one thing, playing football in the open air. And the other one was board games. We played loads of board games. We played Monopoly, we played Ludo. We played something I loved called 4000 AD, which is a kind of science fiction chess game, which is a fabulous game. I've kept it. All these years I've kept it because it's not on sale anymore. And there's a game that was really popular at the time, late 60s or something like that, called Careers, which still exists, where you can, like the idea is to get the most successful career. It's very elitist, in fact, but that was quite, we liked that.
I didn't know that one.
It was like being a sort of grown up, you know, you can become a policeman kind of thing. Yeah.
I loved your first game was like an attempt at squatting. That's why there's so many squats in London. I had a very different childhood. I grew up in a field surrounded by sheep. No, but not in the field, but the house was there and the rest of it was surrounded by sheep. And I mean, there was three houses together, and we used to actually meet in the field in the middle. And a lot of our games would have been revolved around using our imagination. My father was a carpenter, and we used to actually go to his workshop in my garden and make swords and make like pretend guns and slingshots and things like this, and play hide and go seek. But hide and go seek was in a huge area of like an acre, so you would spend like 3 or 4 hours playing hide and go seek one game, because there was an old house in the middle that people would hide in under the hay and things like that. And
were you riding a bike? Did you like riding a bike?
I used to ride a bike to school actually when I was a kid. Back in the day when there wasn't that many cars. That sounds very old. That was the 90s. We did have a lot of cars.
What about video games?
Don't look at Matthew, I think.
No, just don't look at me. I remember the first video game. I must have been 18 when the first video game came along, and it consisted of a game of tennis where very slowly a black marker would move along one side of the screen, and a little ball would bounce off it and go very slowly to the other side of the screen. Then another black marker would move up and go bong, and it would go over. It was, and we used to look at this thing thinking, this is amazing.
I think it was the Commodore 64, I think it was, or the Atari. I'm not sure which one it was.
Atari, I think.
Was it Atari? And then the Commodore 64 came after that?
Yeah. Video games, Mark?
Yeah, well, actually, I remember that one because that was one of the first ones when I was a small child. At that stage, it was like pretty new. But when I was growing up, a big fan of Mario Kart. We used to play massive marathons of like Mario
yeah,
Kart.
sure.
And another one, Championship Manager on the PCs when they came out in the late 90s. We used to play this game called Championship Manager, which was a football game, managing and stuff like that. I used to love it. But I remember the Atari, the Commodore 64, the little cassettes you had to put in and wait for it not to load for like ages and ages. Yeah, it was good fun.
So were you a naughty child? Did you used to misbehave a lot?
Well, actually, I don't like to go into that because then they'll have a bad image of me. No, I was quite a good child, but actually that was part of my next section, which I like to call Crime and Punishment in the English school.
Very literary.
Yes.
Okay, let's watch it.
And what kind of things do you do when you misbehave?
So my mommy said, do the bed, and I don't do it. I go with the iPad, and my mommy said, leave it, and I don't leave it.
What happens if you don't leave the iPad? What does your mom or dad do?
Shout. I beat up my brother.
Is he younger or older than you?
He's like 18 months younger than me, so I beat him up like bad. I go ba 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 ba, and then he goes crying, and then I'm like, and my mom's like, bro, what'd you do that for? And I'm like, he's just putting me on my nerves, and I'm like, DK, next time don't mess with me. And he's like, I will never give up. He comes tries to fight me again. Ba 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 ba.
My mother asks me to wake up. I don't wake up. She asks me to do something, I don't do it. She asks me to keep the utensils in the wash basin, I don't do it. She asks me to stop watching TV, I don't do it.
You're a real rebel, huh? You don't do anything. Oh, yeah.
I'm really lazy. That's why my father calls me Coach Potato.
Do Swedish parents shout as much as Spanish parents?
No, definitely not in Sweden. If you've done something, it's like, it's okay, but we'll take away your Xbox for a while.
The Swedish way. Well, the Swedish way, I'm sure it worked
They're definitely
out very
onto
well.
something, huh? They're definitely onto something. Don't worry, but we're taking away your Xbox. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. No shouting involved in Sweden,
No
allegedly.
shouting involved.
No, not like the Irish families or the Spanish families or the other ones.
Well, tell me about school. Do you remember school fondly? Do you have good memories of school?
I do. I went to a small country school. There was 13 of us in the class, 3 girls and 10 boys.
Wow, that's a privilege.
It was a privilege. There was actually 2 classes in the same room all the time. So you had like first year primary, second year primary up were together, and then so on, like 2 classes all the time. So it was a lot of fun. Actually, the education I got when I was in primary school served me well all the way through secondary school, because literally I didn't learn too much because we had such a good education at primary school. It actually got me nearly through university at that stage. The history was good. That we spoke Irish at school a lot, so I loved it. I thought it was great, and we mixed a lot with the girls and the boys growing up. You know, we used to play lots of football and games together, and as I said, we were very creative. Lots of like countryside kind of thing, not like inner city London, I imagine. I don't know.
No,
A
that's
different
fascinating, in
experience,
fact.
no?
Yeah, primary school, because you're still fairly innocent at that age, so you don't think too much about what's good, what's bad about school. You just go there and get along as best you can. I do have one odd memory of a very eccentric maths teacher who used to threaten us with a coat hanger from time to time.
Oh.
And he called this coat hanger Little Peter. And he used to say, watch out or I'll get Little Peter and I'll hit you. You know, he was really creepy.
Frightening.
And we were all sitting there going, you know, hello, who is this guy? But one thing I remember, it was my introduction to the English class system, because first I went to a state primary school, and then my parents, Christ knows why, but they moved me to a private primary school about midway. And the weird thing was that the 2 schools were very close to each other. And what I found when I was walking towards the private school was that my old friends from the state primary school blocked my way and threatened to beat me up, because because of this class thing that there is in England all the time. You know?
That's terrible.
You could do a movie about your life as a child, huh? It's pretty funny, huh? Some of the stuff you come up with.
Well, it was in the country I was
Squatting,
you
playing
know.
football,
come
being
on.
stopped by the tough kids. You
Well,
know,
that
like
wasn't
This is
funny.
England by Matthew Tree.
I don't find that funny. Anyway, let's talk about games. Games are more fun. So did you take the chance to actually have some, to play a little bit when you went to the school?
Did we play some games? Do you remember? We did, yeah. We tried to play some games, but yeah, it was a bit of fun. No, we had some fun.
So let's see which ones.
They have to do what I tell them to do, only when I say Simon says. Okay?
So, Simon says touch your head. Simon says touch your knee. Simon says touch your head. Touch your knee. Oh! Because I didn't say Simon says. I go very, very fast.
Simon says step forward. Step back. Oh, gone. 1, 2, gone.
Simon says put your hands in the air. Oh, you went down, you went down. Okay, hands in the air. No, out. That's...
Okay, so we have Holland and Barcelona. All right. It's gonna be difficult to get rid of these two. They're really, really good, huh? Okay, Simon says step to the side.
Stop. Oh, eliminated. Ah, well done. Holland, high five. Well done. Holland did it very well. Okay, and to round it all off, we're going to do a quick hide and seek. Okay, guys, are you ready? Going to count to 20. You got to disappear, okay? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 20. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to find all those kids. Screw that.
We have been talking about childhood for almost 2 hours now, and I think it's about time the children have a say as well. So, hello in the first place.
Hello! Okay, so...
All right, excellent. Well, I know your English is very, very good. I know your English is excellent, and I know also that you come from different countries, right? Yes? So let's see, Marc, where do they come from?
Marco.
I'm from here, Barcelona.
Okay.
I'm from here, but my dad is from Brazil.
What's your name again?
Paula.
Paula, yes. And Sarah?
I'm from France.
Very good. Couch potato?
India.
Did they give you that name when you were a child, couch potato, or did that
No.
just happen later on in life?
It happened later on in life.
Candela?
From Barcelona.
Diego?
Barcelona.
And sorry, Aitana?
I'm from Barcelona.
Very good. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask them?
Do you read?
Yes.
You do read? Okay, good. Well, you say of course, but there are lots of kids who don't read. So what do you like reading?
Yes,
I like reading books of YouTubers.
Of YouTubers?
Yes.
Is that considered reading?
Yes, because you read.
Well, some YouTubers
Aitana, what
wrote
about
books.
you?
What, the subtitles?
Aitana, what about you?
I like reading because it's fun.
Couch potato, when you're sitting on the couch at home and doing nothing, is reading in your repertoire of things to do?
I read sometimes, and what I read is, well, I like reading short stories because I don't like reading very much, but sometimes when I'm interested in some stories, which are the famous 5, I read them.
Very good. So short and sweet. Very good. Marco, do you like reading?
Yeah. I like I like reading like adventures, like Jerónimo Stilton, because there's like always something that you want to know.
Brazil, what about you? Do you read?
Yes. I don't care what about read.
Do you read in Portuguese, or do you read in English or Spanish or Catalan or French? Which language do you like to read in?
I don't care.
It doesn't matter?
No.
Talented, huh, Matthew?
Wow.
They're talented. And France, what about you? Do you like to read?
Yes.
Yes, what do you like to read?
Everything.
Everything. And do you which language do you read in?
Sometimes French, Catalan, Spanish, or English.
Wow, these kids are talented, huh, Matthew? They can read everything.
Excellent. Well, now we're going to ask some questions to the second row, maybe.
Yep, let me just
And I
make a
remember
move.
in the first video, Marc.
Yes.
In the first video, some of them said that they would like to change some things that adults do. So the question is, what adults, in your opinion, of course, should do more, and what should they do less?
Okay, so let's start over here. Were you falling asleep? Okay, good. All right. So tell me, what should adults do more and what should adults do less of? Grab the microphone if you want. Just pass it back to me afterwards, okay?
Okay.
What's your name?
Claudio.
Claudio. Okay, Claudio, go.
First, I think that adults should take more time with his child,
Okay.
to play with them and have more fun. And I think that they have to work less.
Very good, Claudio.
I think
Finland. I think half Finland, right? Yes. Yes. Okay. Give us your take on the question.
My name is Noah, and I think that the adults have to be more fun.
They have to be more fun.
Yes.
You think they're too serious?
Yes, they're always with the work, and sometimes with problems.
So you have no problems because you're a kid, right?
Yes, I am a kid.
Very good. What about you, sir? What's your name? And tell us what.
My
Give us
name
some
is
advice.
Luis. I think that they should play more with the kids.
Okay.
And they should work less than they do.
Very good. And I think you have your sister over here as well, right?
Yeah.
Twins, yes. What's your name?
My name is Lucia.
Lucia.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so tell us, what do they do?
I think they have to play more and have more imagination. And they have to don't be all the time with a mobile.
You think that adults spend more time on mobiles than kids?
Yeah.
My mother spends
Hold on.
hours like this with the mobile.
Yes.
Chatting.
I think she's in the studio.
In
I don't-
WhatsApp, it's all the time.
Is your mother here?
No.
Is that the woman on the mobile over there?
No.
I'm joking. There's nobody on the mobile over there.
No.
Don't worry.
And then she tells you not to use your phone, for example, or your tablet?
Yeah,
So
She does.
a lot of time.
And what about you?
My name is Shudiksha.
Yes.
And I think they have to be more fun. They keep on doing being the mobile and blah 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 every day. And I want them to be more active and play with us. And when we ask, can you play with us? They're like, no, I have work and I have to do some work more and more and more. And sometimes they have problems and they keep on shouting. And I was like, oh my God, why are you yelling there?
What kind of games would you like to play with your parents?
Like they have to catch us and be more active.
Okay, so like running around the house after you, catching you, throwing them over the shoulder, things like
Yes,
this.
yes.
Yeah, do you guys agree? Finland?
It's true because it's like, can you play with me after? One day later. Can I play with you after? Like this all the time.
So like it never happens, no?
Yes, never.
So broken promises.
Yes. She's right. It's all the time.
Give them the microphone.
When I was like 4 years old,
Uh-huh.
I said, "Can you play with me, Daddy?" And he said, "No, I have to work, but later, like 5 minutes, I will play with you." Then 5 minutes later, "Can you play with me, Daddy?" And he said, "No." Later, 1 hour, maybe I can. 1 hour later, I ask him all the time, and he said, "No." He's working all the time.
Well, let's see
Okay.
this corner here, Mark, because I haven't
Yes.
heard these girls.
Yeah. If I may say so, I
You're-
found that reminded me of when my kids were the same age as you guys. I just remembered I must have been a very boring parent. I was always saying, yeah, no, we'll play later.
Well, there's still hope for
Big
me then. There's
mistake.
still hope for me when my little
Yeah.
eye gets going.
And for
Do you
you
mind
as
scooting
well.
over a bit?
Yeah,
Because then I don't have to reach so far. Scoot, 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 scoot. There we go. Okay, so it's going to be easier rather than me reaching across 4 people, you know? So, do you guys have any more questions?
Yeah, I've got 2 questions in one sentence.
Two
okay?
questions in one sentence.
in
You
one
guys ready?
sentence.
Yeah? Okay.
What do you like and dislike most about school?
Okay, so what's your name and tell us what you like and dislike about school?
My name is Natalia.
Okay.
And the things I like of school is that you see your friends every day.
Mhm.
And what I don't like is the homework.
You don't like homework?
Homework.
I don't like homework either. I think they should get rid of homework. Do you think they should get rid of homework?
Well, Mark, don't teach them bad things here.
No, well,
homework is good unless we know. I mean, not like all the time or every day.
in Finland,
For the afternoon.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. You spend all day at school.
We're 8 hours writing and then
Sorry.
we're 8 hours writing and then we need to like spend 1 hour more writing at home.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and homework is a little bit fun because then you keep on playing and watching TV and then you'll get bored doing the same thing.
Okay, hold on a minute. What about this lady here? What would you like about school and what do you not like about school?
My name is Gemma and I like being with my friends in the patio, and I dislike doing exams and homework.
Okay, so the running theme here is
Okay.
exams and
Sorry,
homework.
Matthew was saying something
Yes.
about Finland
Yes,
before.
Finland, as we have someone from Finland. Finland is one of the, I think it's the only country in Europe that does not give homework to children until the age of 15. Because the concept is that when you're 15, you understand why you're being given homework, and so you're responsible for your own homework. But they don't think it's necessary until you're 15 years old.
Totally agree. Round of applause for Finland. Yes. No homework till you're 15. Awesome. So what's your name, and tell us what you like about school and don't like about school?
My name's Ginevra, and I actually like school because you go with your friends and you have fun. And I dislike exams and homework, and as Sarah said, after school, homework is a bit boring, but it's fine.
Where are you from?
Italy.
Ah, yes, I remember. You're the little Italian. Okay. All right, Holland, the winner of Simon Says. Can you tell us?
Hello, my name is Victoria, and well, I like school because you can play with your friends and you can see them every day. And what I dislike is that we have so much exams and they are very difficult. And
that's it, no?
Yeah.
Maybe we can ask them to speak just a little bit louder, if it's possible.
Hello, my name is Mar, and I like school sometimes. What I like from school is that you're with your friends, and some classes are fun. And I dislike homework and exams.
Okay, one more question.
It's possible to ask them what they would like to be when they grow up?
Ah, okay.
I was going to change that question a little bit. I had the same question. I was saying, what do you think you're going to be when you grow up?
Okay.
Ah, okay. Which one would you prefer to answer? What would you like to be, or what do you think you're going to be? Both of them.
What would you like to do?
What would you like to do?
I would like to be an actress because I love acting.
Very good. Okay, Holland, what about you?
I want to be a violinist.
A violinist?
Yes.
Very good.
Because I like the violin a lot and I'm playing since I was 8 years old.
Very good.
And
the Italian, making pizzas?
No, I would like to be an actress as well, but I love doing photos.
Okay.
So I don't know.
A famous photographer?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, very good. Now, the two girls who were chatting and been behind me, do you know I'm a teacher as well, right? I have got eyes on the back of my head, and I can see everything in the classroom. Go on, tell me what you would like to be.
I would like to be informatic because I love computers.
You love computers, so basically a YouTuber, no?
Yeah. I would like to be a scientist and find the cure to all of the illnesses.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to do one more move. Scoot very quickly, scoot very quickly. Scoot, 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 scoot. There we go. Okay, quickly. Here we go. Look at this camera over here.
I would like to be a doctor, but I have interest in dancing, singing, and I even have a YouTube channel called Xarxa.
Oh, there you go, doing a little plugging for your YouTube channel. I love it. Kids, so you could be a dancing, singing doctor.
Yeah. I don't know. I never thought it.
You never thought about it, no?
No.
That's a fair answer. That's a fair answer.
I would like to be a doctor.
A doctor, a dancing, singing doctor like this girl over here, or just a regular one?
A dancing, singing
doctor. Of course, who wouldn't want to be a doctor?
I would like to be a scientific, mathematic, and astronaut.
And an astronaut. Oh my God, you could be potentially the first half-finished boy in space.
I would like
Claudio.
to be an actress and
An actress?
Yeah.
No, an actor.
An actor?
There we go, okay.
An astronaut
Yes?
and nothing more.
Maybe you could appear in a movie that is in space.
Oh yeah, and a scientist.
And a scientist as well. Wow, these guys have high aspirations, I believe.
Excellent. Anything you would like to add before we go?
You want the microphone?
I want to be something else.
What would you like to be, quickly?
A YouTuber.
Oh my God, a YouTuber.
Well, actually,
How many of you would like to be a YouTuber? Yeah, I think everybody would like to be a YouTuber. I know, you've just plugged your YouTube
If they
channel
wanted
live
to
on
add
air.
something which is not necessarily related to a
Would you
job.
like to say anything to the people at home about learning English, about your life speaking English or anything? Any advice you would give to the other children of Catalonia to improve their English? Yes?
That speaking other languages is fun.
Yes.
So try
to speak other languages.
Very good. France, what about you? Some advice for the children at home?
Yes, that it will be cool that like it's better to start when you're young to speak other languages like this when you grow up. You don't, because when you're an adult it's difficult to learn other languages, but when you're a kid it's easier.
You're absolutely right
Yes.
about learning languages when you're young, because I started learning one language when I was 38, 39, something like that, and 24 years on I'm still learning it. I find it very difficult, but the other languages not so much.
Well, anyway, this has been fun. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Have you had any fun?
Yes.
Well, anyway, we need to go now. And here ends the weekly mag dedicated to childhood. Catch up with all the episodes and sections online and follow us on social networks. And don't forget to post the solution to the Guess World puzzle by Mario Serra, which is narrow back streets to Wonderland. 6 letters. Well, have a nice week and keep your English up and running.
Well done. Round of applause. Well done. And it's a wrap. Excellent. There you go. Well done, guys. Excellent. All of you. Very, very proud of you. Now, do you get to go back to school?
No.
Yeah? Tell your teachers you have no homework today, okay? Tell them that we told you on the show that you cannot have any homework today. It's impossible.